this webinar series on Microsoft Defender XDR. So this webinar series is brought to you by the M365 India user group. So this is a user group which mainly focuses on Microsoft 365 services, Power Platform, and also cloud security related stuff. Right. Let's keep moving. So the very first session of this webinar series, so today we are having the very first session, we'll be talking about how to get started with Microsoft Defender XDR product. So we want to start right from level 0 and then gradually move on to the complex topics. That's how this webinar has been designed. So today we'll be completely focusing only on what are the different Defender XDR products and how you can get started with that. With that, let me go ahead and introduce the speakers. So myself, my name is Vignesh Ganeshan. I've been in the industry for close to 13 plus years now. It's been quite a long time doing Microsoft. I've just been doing only Microsoft all these years. In my current role, I work as a enterprise cloud architect, where I look after the complete modern workplace side of things in my organization. I'm also a Microsoft MVP and MCT. I hold my Microsoft MVP on cloud security and also Microsoft 365. With that, I'd like to call upon Samik, who's my co-speaker. So Samik, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Vignesh, and I'd like to thank you all for joining the session today. Myself, Samik, and I'm joining Vignesh. I'm mostly more than 10 years in the industry, and right now I'm serving as a cloud security architect in a Microsoft partner ecosystem. I also got Microsoft MVP on the security category, and last year I got my first book released on one of the security topics. So with that said, we would again welcome you to the webinar series and give it back to Vignesh to get started. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. With no further ado, let's get started. So I want to begin by setting the expectations for this webinar series. I want to make sure that you folks understand what exactly this webinar series is all about. I do not want to oversell what we are trying to do here. Since the topic clearly says that it is a zero to hero webinar series, I want to make sure that we are setting the expectations right at the very first session, so that there is no disappointment, as we move further in this webinar series. The targeted audiences for this webinar series we are basically targeting the M365 admins or architects. You could be somebody who's coming from the M365 world, or you could be a cloud engineer or architect who's focusing more on the Azure side of things. And also you could be somebody who's an IT security professional, right? But the basic expectation is we hope that you have a good understanding of Microsoft 365 and Azure services, because this particular webinar series is not meant to talk about the core nitty-gritties of M365 or Azure. We are making the assumption that you already have a decent understanding of these two services. So because this particular session is mainly focused only on the Defender side of things. So the end goal, so what we are trying to achieve out of this webinar series is to make sure that you get yourself familiarized with all the Microsoft Defender XDR products, all the different implementation methods, some best practices, and also the licensing, because licensing has always been one complex topic, specifically with the Microsoft world. So we want to make sure that we are trying to help you demystify some licensing concerns also in this webinar series. So finally, the key takeaways that you could expect after this webinar series is you would be able to get a good understanding about the Microsoft Defender XDR and the different products and services in the suite. You'd also be able to understand, why is even XDR important for an organization with cloud footprints? More than ever before in current times, XDR has gained a lot of momentum. So we'll try to talk and understand why is it more important and why should an organization even invest on a proper XDR? And we'll also be talking about what problem can Microsoft XDR solve for you and how it can integrate with both native Microsoft products and also the non-Microsoft products and solutions. Because in an enterprise, of course, you're not just going to use Microsoft solutions alone. There are going to be a lot of other SaaS applications, a lot of other PaaS and IaaS solutions that you might be using. So the XDR, the Microsoft's XDR is just not limited only to the Microsoft products, but it can also secure your data, which is spread on other solutions also. So we'll be talking about how you can do the integration as well. So how do we plan to run this webinar series? So the first two sessions, including this very session that you have all currently joined. So the first two sessions are mainly going to be focused on the introductory stuff. We are going to keep it as basic as possible. So if you're somebody who has a decent amount of understanding of Microsoft XDR, I would recommend that you could leave, because I just want to make sure that I'm not wasting your time, because we want to start from level 0 and then gradually grow. So the first 2 sessions are going to be completely introductory stuff. But the goal of this complete webinar series is to have close to 12 to 15 sessions. We are planning to do a lot of deep dive sessions on each and every single product on the Microsoft Defender XDR along this journey. So the way we want to do this is these are going to be bi-weekly sessions on every Saturday at 6 p.m. IST. So the first session happens today, then we have the next session, which is planned on Feb 24th at 6 p.m. IST. So these are going to be bi-weekly sessions. All these sessions would be recorded and it will be made available on my YouTube channel. And I'll be sharing the recording with you and you can consume it later, based on your need. So each session, we are planning to run each session for 60 minutes, wherein 50 minutes will be completely dedicated towards the session. And then for the last 10 minutes, we'll try to spend some time on questions and answers. And also we can have an open discussion about whatever you want to talk about related to XDR. So at the end of the session, we would be sharing a Microsoft form, a survey form, and it would be really great if you could just spend a couple of minutes to go through it and fill it so that we understand how we are doing as presenters. And also if you have any feedback and if you have any questions for us, right? Hey, I attended this session today, but I have this question which I couldn't ask during the webinar, but at a later point in time, this question came up and I would like to ask this question. So you could go ahead and do that in the Microsoft forms as well. All right, so with that, let's jump into today's agenda. So the agenda today is really simple since it is a very basic session. We'll be talking about what is an XDR and why should you even care about it in the first place. Then we'll be talking about introduction to Microsoft's XDR and the different Microsoft Defender products and services that we currently have in the Microsoft Defender suite. Then we'll be talking about the high-level overview of all the Microsoft Defender XDR products, because when you say Microsoft Defender, it's a bigger brand under which you have a lot of other segments. But our focus for this webinar series would be only Microsoft Defender XDR. I'll also be talking about what are the different suite of services that we have under the Microsoft Defender branding. Then we'll be talking about some basic concepts about each and every single XDR product. And that is a very good demo, which has been planned by Samik. He'll be walking you through the XDR Admin Center. He's going to help you understand, how Microsoft has segregated each and every single product. What are the things that you should be looking at? So all those kind of things are planned in the demo. And finally, we'll also be doing a comparison with other third-party XDR products, right? In your organization, for whatever reason, if you're running this XDR products, we'll be comparing how Microsoft XDR is, we just want to give a bake off there, and also some cost takeouts, meaning if at all you're spending money there, so what are some monies that you could spend and just make sure that you're completely leveraging only Microsoft solutions. Well, by all means, we are not here to share, we are not selling Microsoft product, it's just sharing some best practices and some industry trends. So that's all this webinar series is all about. All right, so what is an XDR and why should you even care, right? So when I say an XDR, it's called as Extended Detection and Response, which we call as an XDR. And it is basically a SaaS-based security solution that unifies multiple security technologies into a single platform, providing greater visibility and control over threats. Now, what I mean by that is, if you look at this very diagram here that you're seeing on the screen, right? So in any organization, there would be a lot of endpoints that they are running, because endpoint is the heart, it's the core of any business, right? So, and you would have a lot of antivirus or any EDR solution to monitor and take care of all your endpoints. So that's called as an EDR. Then for your email security, because of course, email is used pretty much in every single business these days. So they would be running some sort of email security solutions. It could be Proofpoint, a Mimecast. There are a lot of other solutions out there which offer email security. Then for network security, this is mainly for your routers, switches, firewalls, right? For any threats which is coming through that route, you want to make sure that there is proper, solutions to govern those. So you have network security products also, which is called as NDRs. And then for all the SaaS applications that you're currently running in your organization, as I'm saying, it's just not Microsoft 365. You could be running Google, you could be running CRM, you could be running whatever. There are a lot of third-party SaaS solutions out there in the market, right? But the problem with the industry for a very long time is all these were single point solutions, meaning For an EDR, you had to buy a specific product and you have to be using that EDR. For instance, CrowdStrike, right? And then for email security, organizations would go and purchase a specific email security product, such as Proofpoint or Mimecast or whatever, right? And then for network security, they would go and purchase Cisco's of the world and whatever offers the NDR capability. And then when you talk about cloud workload security, you have something called as a CASB, which we'll be talking in detail later in this session. So the problem that XDR is trying to solve is all these were standalone products, which means it requires separate manpower, separate skill set, and every single alert or incident which has been generated, right? You have to specifically go and look into it. There was no proper means to correlate all these things and bring it under one single pane of glass view. So that's the problem which XDR is trying to solve. So when you're trying to use an XDR, pretty much your endpoints, your email security, your NDR, which is network security, cloud workloads, your identities, and there is a lot which goes into it. Everything can be monitored and secured from this one single particular sort of one single product. So that's what an XDR means. At a very high level, this is what you need to understand when I'm saying about an XDR. So what it offers, it can offer you, it can prevent the threats, it can detect the threats, it can also investigate. Let's say it prevented it, it detected it, but for whatever reason, the threat still came into your environment, right? So it can also help to investigate how it even made its way inside, and finally also to respond, because in today's cloud world, there is just so much happening around. It's not humanly possible for individuals to sit and respond to every single threat. So at some point, all these needs to be automated. For instance, when something of this sort happens, this is the response that should be in for this kind of an attack, right? So for instance, if there is a identity anomaly, if somebody is trying to log in just from India now, and within 5 minutes he's trying to log in from Chicago in the United States, then there should be an automated response saying that if this happens, then this should be the response from the security solution. So this is what an XDR is trying to provide. And there are a lot of definitions, if you can just go and read in the internet, right? So these are different definitions given by different vendors. When I say vendors, these are the definitions given by IBM, Cisco, CrowdStrike. There are a lot of XDR solutions, but at a very high level, just keep in mind that it's a single pane of glass which can help to do all the individual components that we just spoke about. And then moving on, these are some key capabilities and benefits of an XDR, right? So the story just doesn't end there. It just doesn't help you to do prevent, detect, investigate, and respond. It's also going to help you to correlate incidents. For instance, maybe an email has been sent to you which has malicious content on it. You clicked on it and it downloaded an exe to your device, right? And with that device, the attacker tries to get access to some of the high privileged accounts, right? And with that, he's going on and he's trying to do damage. So all these different incidents will be correlated together so that you're not going after each and every single thing trying to figure out what happened. Everything will be correlated and it will be attached to one single thing so that you know that, well, with this is what has happened. Also, there is some good amount of analytics, automated detection and response. As I said, you can also automate things, and there is a good amount of AI and machine learning also which goes into it. In today's cloud world, I can barely think of any product which doesn't have AI and machine learning infused into it, right? So, and XDR is no different. So it has good amount of AI and machine learning also. And it also has auto healing of affected assets. For whatever reason, if something has been affected, how to auto heal. That is also a capability which comes with an XDR. And there are some key benefits, of course, increased visibility, increased efficiency, alert management, real-time threat detection, incident prioritization, and automated tasks. I don't want to go through every single thing and read it, but when you're using an XDR, this is a given. You would end up getting all these key capabilities and also key benefits also. Now, enough of trying to understand what an XDR is all about. So if at all you have any specific question, if something was not clear to you, you can just put it in the chat. We will, towards the end of the session, we'll try to pick up those questions and we'll try to answer them for you. But I hope by now you have a decent understanding of what we mean by an XDR, an extended detection and response. Now, these are the different products and services under the Microsoft Defender branding. So we have the Microsoft Defender XDR, which is specifically meant for Microsoft 365 services. So on the back of your mind, if you're thinking, well, Vignesh, if I want to secure Microsoft 365 services, what should I be using? It's Microsoft Defender XDR. And under Microsoft Defender XDR, you have all these products. And that's what this webinar series, this entire webinar series is going to focus on. And then you have Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which is more on the Azure IaaS and PaaS side of things. If you're looking for security services that can help to secure your, your Azure investments, then Microsoft Defender for Cloud is the product for you. Then Microsoft Defender for IoT, of course, as the name itself says, it's for IoT devices. Then you have the Microsoft Defender Threat Intelligence and also Microsoft Defender capabilities in Windows. So this is how Microsoft has segregated the Microsoft Defender products and services. But our core focus would be the Microsoft Defender XDR in this webinar series. Right. So the Microsoft Defender XDR is nothing but Microsoft's XDR, right? So this was formerly called as Microsoft 365 Defender. I think I like that name pretty much. I think I like that name a lot because that makes a lot of sense. When you say Microsoft 365 Defender, it makes sense. You can understand that well. Yeah. So these are the set of services which are meant to secure Microsoft 365's products, right? But Microsoft Defender XDR, sometimes you need to think back and realize, okay, right? So, but what does it do as a whole? So your Microsoft Defender XDR is going to help to protect your hybrid identities, just not the cloud identities, also the hybrid identities, meaning your on-prem identities are also included. Of course, your endpoints and IoT, then your email and collaboration, all the SaaS apps, just not Microsoft 365 apps, all the SaaS apps, and then the data and also the cloud workloads. So this is what the Microsoft Defender XDR is gonna protect in your in your cloud environment. As I was telling, any XDR could give the capability of prevention, protect, detect, and respond, and also extend. So this is a given that the segment which you're seeing here, this is common for any XDR, and this layer which you're seeing here, this is all the different Microsoft 365 services that it's going to take care of. Now, what are the different products and the solutions which the Microsoft Defender XDR coordinates with? And once again, I repeat, this was formerly called as Microsoft 365 Defender, which really was a very good name. You could easily make sense out of it, but now the product has been renamed as Microsoft Defender XDR. So these are the list of services and products which Microsoft Defender XDR coordinates with. So the first four products that you're seeing, these are the four core products in this suite. So the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Office 365, Microsoft Defender for Identity, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. These are the four core products inside the Microsoft Defender XDR product suite. And the other ones which you're seeing down, right? So these are the products which are either an add-on to these, or these are the products which the Microsoft XDR coordinates with, which means it closely works with these products also. So in that sense, we have the Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management, we have Microsoft Intra ID Protection, Microsoft Data Loss Prevention, and also the app governance. The reason why I'm trying to stress this and make you understand clear is because when you're looking at this, you might wonder that, well, I see the Microsoft Defender prefixed before all these, which makes sense. But what are these other ones, right? I don't even see a Microsoft Defender branding to these products. It's simply because these products they coordinate very well with this. All the alerts or any kind of thing which is generated from here, they are closely integrated with this. So that's why it has been kept like this. So even if you go to the Microsoft documentation and read it, you would see all these 8 products given there. So we all understand Microsoft. They keep changing their names like once in 6 months. I mean, there was a point in time where it was once in a year, then it becomes 6 months, now 3 months, and now I don't even know what the cadence is going to look like. By the time you remember a product, the next thing you know is the name has been changed. That's how Microsoft has been doing things these days. But it's very important that you understand some of the product name changes. So Microsoft Defender XDR, this was called as Microsoft Threat Protection. So the Azure Security Center was nothing, it's called now as Microsoft Defender for Cloud. The Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection is called as Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. The Office 365 ATP. If at all you've been an M365 admin in the past, this name should be quite familiar to you. It's called as Microsoft Defender for Office 365. The Azure ATP is now called as Microsoft Defender for Identity. The Microsoft Cloud Apps Security, which is a CASB, is now called as Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And let me also remind you that all these products that you're seeing here, right? All of these were nothing but these were Israeli organizations before, right? I'll be talking some history about how all these products came into the Microsoft's world, right? So if at all you remember, Microsoft was not really playing a lot in the security business, right? A lot of these products which you're currently seeing, these were standalone companies in Israel. Specifically, if you go to Tel Aviv, you would see a lot of these security organizations there. So over a period of time, Microsoft purchased these organizations, and then they integrated that with their M365 suite, and then they have rebranded it, and now this is the current name that you're seeing. And I just also want to talk quickly about these organizations. So to begin with, um, the very first thing is Hexadite. Now, Hexadite is once again an Israeli organization which Microsoft purchased, and currently this is what you're seeing as Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So as Microsoft purchases, they try to integrate some of their services also. They do a rebranding, and now this product is called as Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So Hexadite is where this came from. The next thing is Orato, which is nothing but your Microsoft Defender for Identity. Once again, an Australian organization which was purchased by Microsoft. I think this blog was written in 2014, and then they made it as a part of their suite. Adalom, this should be quite familiar with everybody because when Microsoft made this acquisition, it was on the news everywhere. So this is nothing but a CASB solution, which is currently called as Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And then there is one more called as the Risk IQ. This is what you see as the Microsoft Threat Intelligence. This was also an organization which was later purchased by Microsoft. And speaking of an XDR, I also want to show some what does Gartner has to say about it, because we've been talking about XDR for quite some time. So this is the definition from Gartner. I'm not going to read it for you, but just so you know, these are all the different different vendors who are offering XDR, and these are the ones which have the highest rating as per Gartner, and this is the Gartner peer insights. So you see Microsoft XDR standing second, and then there are a lot of other vendors also who offer this, just so you know. And you can also go and read in detail about this in the in the Gartner Magic Quadrant also. All right. So enough about that. So now that we have spoken about what is an XDR, what are the different products within the Microsoft Defender XDR, let me take this a bit more further. What we are going to do is we are going to come up with a use case, and then we'll see what challenge this particular organization is facing and how the Microsoft Defender XDR suite is helping this organization to overcome these challenges, right? So here we have an imaginary organization by the name Avenstro. And these are some use cases which these are some challenges basically which this organization is currently facing. And then they have purchased the uh, the Microsoft Defender XDR services to secure their tenant. At some point, this organization realized that that is something that we need to do to make sure that we are building a robust security system. And then they went ahead and they purchased the Microsoft Defender XDR service, right? So let's see how each and every single challenge is solved by all the standalone products that we just spoke about in the Microsoft Defender XDR suite. Well, think of it as a match the following, right? This is the challenge and this is the problem for it. This is the challenge and this is the product for it, right? So that way it'll be easy for you to comprehend which one is connected to which particular product. So for the very first challenge, users often receive a lot of spam emails, spoofing emails, and malware attached email, which leads to data theft. Quite a very common scenario which happens even today. Every time this is quite common, and you would see this happening in all the workplaces, right? So this is a challenge which this organization is facing, and the product which is going to help them to overcome this problem is nothing but the Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which is called as an MDO, which is a component of the Microsoft Defender XDR suite. So what is MDO? At the end of the day, it's nothing but a cloud-based email filtering service. If at all, as I said in the beginning, right? In today's world, you would have Proofpoint, you would have Mimecast. These are third-party solutions which offer email security. MDO is nothing but Microsoft's own take on this, right? EOP was something which is quite known for a very long time, Exchange Online Protection. No matter whatever M365 licensing you have, EOP is a given. It comes along with that. You don't need to pay anything extra to Microsoft for that. That is nothing but your email gateway, which is where your email filtering, everything happens. Now, to take the email filtering or the email security to the next level, you have these two. You have the MDO, and there are two different plans, the plan one and plan two. I'm not going to deep dive into this because we have properly planned standalone sessions for this. But just so you know, so to overcome emailing challenges, email security, we have the MDO. And it just doesn't stop with email security, because in today's M365, you also have SharePoint, you have Teams, you have Office. So your MDO can take care of those also, right? And uh, and once again, the same story as I said, any XDR should offer you these four capabilities: protect, detect, investigate, and respond. And this is how the stack has been configured. With EOP, you get the protection capabilities. With the MDO plan one, you get detect. And with the MDO plan two, you get investigate and respond. So the way you need to look at this is, with EOP, it's only the protection that you get. When you have the MDO plan one, you get protection and also detect. With MDO plan 2, you get all these four. Right. I'll stop with this here. I don't want to deep dive into this product at this very moment. As I said, we have proper webinar sessions planned for this. We'll talk in detail about that later. Now, the next challenge this organization has is they do not have proper tools or resources to protect user identities and to reduce the attack surface. Now, the problem is more on the user identities side. And the product that's going to help them to overcome this challenge is Microsoft Defender for Identity, right? And this was formerly called as Azure ATP. Now, what does your Microsoft Defender for Identity do? It's nothing but it's a cloud-based security solution that's going to help to take care of all your identities, to secure our identities. And uh, and how does it do it? It basically leverages the signals from both your on-premises Active Directory and cloud identities, and it's going to help you to better identify, detect, and investigate advanced threats. So what I'm trying to say here is, with Defender for Identity, you are just not taking care of your cloud identities alone. It is also capable enough of taking care of your on-prem identities also. If you look at this very architecture diagram here, right? You see the domain controller, you see the Active Directory Federation services, you see the Active Directory certification services, right? So I mean, when we are doing the deep dive session on Defender for Identity, you would see us installing sensors in this. With the sensors, it can capture all the, any activities, any kind of logs, everything which is happening here, and everything gets pushed to the Defender for Identity, which is part of the Microsoft 365 Defender. And in addition to that, also all the signals, everything which is coming for Microsoft Entra ID also can be infused into this. And it just doesn't end with only your on-prem identity and your Entra ID. Even the third-party identity providers also, even you can get the signals from that also, and everything goes together. So this very product is meant to completely secure and take care of your Defender for Identity. And these are the three main areas that it offers. One is protect user identities and reduce the attack surface, identify suspicious activities across the cyber attack kill chain, and finally investigate alerts and user activities. With that, let me move on to the third challenge. So the IT team would like to secure the endpoints that access corporate resources. So, and when I say an endpoint, in today's corporate world, an endpoint could mean a lot, right? It could be your laptops, be your phones, it could be your tablets, it could be network devices, it could be your workstations, right? So now this now we are trying to identify, so what is the right product to take care of your endpoints. And for this, the product that is going to take care of it is your Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, right? As the name itself says, it's Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And once again, this is an EDR solution. When I say an EDR, it's more an extended, it's a endpoint detection and response related solution. And as the name itself says, it's going to help to take care of everything related to your endpoint. And these are the different capabilities that it offers. We'll be talking more about this during the deep dive sessions. So the fourth challenge is IT team would like to control data leakage from all approved SaaS apps and stop shadow IT. So all the SaaS apps today, right? When in an organization, there would be a lot of SaaS apps. Of course, M365 is one. You would be having Dropbox. There is just so much out there in today's world, right? So how do you make sure that you have proper control over these SaaS apps? Like what exactly users are doing with these SaaS apps? What happens to the data inside these SaaS apps? How are user making use of it? Are they downloading it? Where exactly are they downloading it, right? And also to stop shadow IT. So shadow IT is a term which has been used in the IT field for a very long time. And what I mean by shadow IT is today in any organization, if you look at it, any organization which has embraced Microsoft technologies, the most approved personal storage app would be OneDrive, right? But if at all, if you ask yourself, hey, does all your file sharing, everything happens through OneDrive? The answer is no, because often you would see your users using WhatsApp and a lot of other products, which is just because it's quite convenient for them, they want to take that route. So how do you control that? That's called a shadow IT, because you're using an application which is not approved by your IT team, which has not been rolled out by your IT team, just because you feel that it is convenient for you to use. But those are the ones which also lead to data leakage, and it possesses a lot of security issues. So for this particular challenge, the product that we want is going to take care of it is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, which was formerly called as Microsoft Cloud App Security. This is nothing but a CASB solution. What I mean by a CASB is a cloud access security broker. What does it even do? What does it mean when I say in CASB is this is something which sits between the end users and the cloud apps, and it tries to monitor and understand what are users doing in these cloud apps, right? What kind of data are they uploading? What kind of data are they trying to download? Are they even allowed to do this? So everything gets monitored, and these are the four areas that it takes care of. One is the SaaS security posture management, information protection, whatever information goes into all these apps, continuous threat protection, even on real time when somebody is trying to download a sensitive file, it detects this in real time and it tells that I'm sorry, you're not allowed to do that, right? And even app to app protection, more of on the OAuth side of things, because today with OAuth, an app, you would give permissions, one app can have access to the other app, right? So that's what OAuth basically does. So all these things can be taken care of by using the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So moving on, the next thing, that for the fifth challenge, the IT team would like to reduce risks by performing continuous vulnerability assessment, risk-based prioritization, and remediation. So how can this organization perform continuous vulnerability assessment? If you're somebody who's coming from that kind of a background, this you would quite understand this, right? Because you want to make sure that all the endpoints, all the devices in your organization, they're up to date, they're patched properly. Maybe the device certificate and also the apps which are installed this are properly updated. It could be the browser extensions, or there is a lot which happens inside an endpoint, right? You want to make sure that there is some kind of solution which constantly scans this, and it speaks to you about, hey, there are some security concerns, these are the things that needs to be addressed, so on and so forth. So that's what your Microsoft Defender vulnerability management is going to do for you. And this is, once again, it is add-on to your Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, meaning you should be having Microsoft Defender for Endpoint as a base component to use your Microsoft Defender vulnerability management. Yeah. And then for the sixth challenge, IT team would like to detect, investigate, and remediate identity-based risks. Uh, of course, out of all the threat vectors out today, identity is the most prone one. That is one the the bad actors go after at the very first point, right? So how do you protect those? So for that, the product that we want to showcase is Microsoft Entra Identity Protection. This was formerly called as Azure AD Identity Protection. Um, so basically, how this solution works is it looks at when a user is trying to sign in to your Office 365 or Azure environment, right? It looks into different kind of signals, for instance, different kind of conditions. I'm sorry. Who exactly is this user, from where exactly he's trying to log in, what kind of application he's trying to log in, what is the user risk level. When I say a risk level, an example which I just quoted before, me as Vignesh, I just logged in from India. Now within 5 minutes I'm trying to log in from Chicago, which is not humanly possible, right? So in that case, can I allow Vignesh to access the resource, or is something going on and should I stop him, or should I challenge his sign in by saying, hey, you got a prompt, you have to give in your MFA, or maybe this is not at all impossible, so that is we can't give you access to this, right? And even also the device, is the device compliant? So it looks at all these conditions and then it goes through this risk engine, and here where the decision happens whether the access has to be granted or the access has to be blocked, or even if I give access, should it be full access or should it be only limited controls? So this is what your Microsoft Entra Identity Protection does. uh, Even though this is not a component of your Microsoft Defender XDR, since all the signals and alerts from this are ingested into your Microsoft Defender XDR. So this is also something which we want to mention and talk about. So for the challenge 7, IT team would like to prevent unauthorized sharing, use, or transfer of sensitive information across apps, services, and devices. Simply nothing, but they want to make sure that people are not sharing sensitive information, right? There is no data leakage. For that, the product is, of course, pretty much everybody knows this product. It's your Microsoft Data Loss Prevention, which is part of your Microsoft Purview. With data loss prevention, of course, you can configure all these policies and all the different workloads, and where you can tell that, well, this is allowed or this is not allowed, and you can make sure that there is no data loss happening in your environment. And also, this is also one thing which closely integrates with your Microsoft Defender XDR, even though it's not a component in that shoe. All the alerts and all the incidents from here, they closely relate to that. Now, for the final thing, what we want to talk about is for the final challenge, the IT team would like to set security and policy management capabilities designed for OAuth enabled apps registered on Microsoft Entra ID, Google, and Salesforce. Now, OAuth is quite an interesting technology, right? Most of the time, you think of it as open authentication. It's not open authentication because there's no authentication involved here. It's open authorization, right? Um, any website that you have used or any mobile application or any kind of application that you've used, and then you see an option there which says sign in with your Facebook, sign in with your LinkedIn, right? So if you're seeing that, which means it's nothing but OAuth is what is happening there, right? So it's basically one app is asking you for access to another app without you giving in your credentials or something, which is quite friendly, which is all understandable, but this could also impose some risk. So how do you make sure that with these OAuth apps are governed, right? For that, the product that I want to bring up is the app governance, which is an add-on to your Microsoft Defender for cloud apps, right? At a very high level, what it does, it's going to govern all your OAuth enabled apps. So these are the different, let's say, the core four products and also the other services that coordinates with that. So which basically sums up to 8 products inside the Defender suite. And finally, this is the anatomy of a cybersecurity attack, right? An example which I just quoted before, right? Let's say a user in your organization, he receives a phishing email, and then he's trying to open the email attachment. This can be taken care by your Defender for Office 365. This is the product which is going to take care of this problem. Now, let's say he opened it and then the malware got installed inside it. Now, the Defender for Endpoint is going to take care of it. Now, let's say even the attacker kept going, right? And he gained access to the credentials. The attacker gets the user's identity. So your Defender for Identity he gets the access and he's laterally moving. He's going to your domain controllers because he wants to cause some damage there, right? So that can be taken care by your Defender for Endpoint. And finally, the attacker uses the identity to move laterally. Attacker gets and exfiltrates sensitive data. For this, the Microsoft Cloud App Security, which is now called as Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So this is how this is like a complete bird's eye view of all these 4 products coming together to take care of an attack. Just because a user received a malicious email, it started there, but it went all the way till this. And in the past, there was no proper way for us to have a bird's eye view for all these things. And with XDR, now all this is possible. With that, enough of me talking. I've been talking for a very long time now. Let me go ahead and hand it over to Samik to show you a quick demo on the Microsoft Defender XDR Admin Center. So Samik, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vignesh. So I would like to share my screen now, and if one of you could confirm it's visible with a thumbs up.
It is yet to come. Yeah, I can see it now. You're good to go.
All right. Thank you for confirming. So when you talk about Defender in action, like how do we go to the portal, right? So there are two different ways. The first thing is if we are administering a single tenant, right? Let's say we are an administrator, Azure AD admin or global admin and things like that. We can always navigate to admin.microsoft.com, and in the left hand side we would see the admin center, and the first one itself is security. The moment you click on that, that's going to open the security.microsoft.com portal, which is Microsoft Defender portal, in a different tab, right? But there's also another way to look at this. For example, there'll be people who will be using Defender for multiple customers, right? In that case, it'll be really handy to keep this URL security.microsoft.com with you. And in case you change customer, all you need to do is change this tenant ID in the URL, to get quick switch across customer depending on if you have the same ID, right? Having said that, once the portal is loaded in the home page, you can see it is having really a good number of cards available, and cards are nothing but a snapshot of all the functionalities we have in Defender XDR as a product across the products we have, like Defender for Office, Defender for Endpoint, and Identity, so on and so forth. And if we scroll down a bit, this will definitely have a little summary, and almost all the cards will have a call to action. As you can see, if we talk about device compliance, we can go and see the view detail. If we see users at risk, we can go and see the users and things like that. Now, in a typical organization, there are segregation of duties. That means you might not be having, or you might not be responsible for the whole portal, right? You might be managing Defender for Office or maybe Defender for Endpoint, right? So for that, there's a quick tweak in the portal available. What you could do is click on the ellipsis within each card and we can remove that, or we can drag and drop to the positions and make it like our customized dashboard, right? And this view is very dedicated to the logged in user. That means if you are an endpoint admin, right, you manage endpoints, you can change the view according to you. And then you can also remove something, and then you can also add a card on the right hand side top. As I've added all the cards by default, you don't have anything else, but once you remove, you get to add them back again, right? So that's where the home page talks about. And in the left navigation, we have home section on the top, which is basically a combination of all the Defender products you have access to. And the left navigation is also configured or defined in a way that you will have access to security.microsoft.com, but left navigation will be populated based on the license and the permissions assigned to you. Now, after home, right, if we want to go detail about particular products, so the first thing, as to quote Bignesh, we can talk about email and collaboration. So when you talk about email and collaboration, this defines the entire features and options what we get as a part of Defender for Office, right? Either it be investigation, or if we want to explore certain things, if you want to look at email campaigns, and also we can look at policies and rules within that particular environment, right?
Samik,
And then
your voice is
we
Samik, you're breaking up. Your voice is breaking up.
sorry about that. Vignesh, do you hear me good?
Yeah, you're good now. Yeah,
All right, so just give me one moment.
you can turn off your video. That gives you more
Yeah,
bandwidth.
yeah, that's what I just did. Sorry for the inconvenience. So I mean, by the time it loads, if you hear me good, it's basically we talked about Defender for Office, and I'm just gonna look at and show you the Defender for Cloud Apps piece after that.
Samik, you there?
Yeah, I'll just give me one sec. Sorry. Sorry, I was talking on mute. So do you see my screen again?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the inconvenience. So coming back to the same environment here, we talk about first Defender for Office and an email collaboration section basically explain and helps you get all the policies and investigation, basically all the details around them. Then at the bottom to it, we have the settings for cloud apps, wherein once we configure cloud apps, we get to see all the settings around, all the details around cloud apps, starting from cloud discovery, looking at policies, looking at governance logs and things like that. Then the next piece is identities. So if I look at identities, identities is where you can look at your details around identities, and the very specific piece is assets, which is a combination of your device and identities. So device coming from endpoint cover devices, and identities your Entra ID identities. And then endpoint helps you utilize your vulnerability management, any APIs, any configuration management tools and things like that. And coming to the bottom, you have a report section as well, wherein you get a combined report of all the tools you have or across all the tools. And once the report loads, let me just quickly show you one of the reports which is available. For example, we clicked on security report and you can see, though there are bits and pieces of this in the homepage as a part of cards, but you can see a detailed report across all the products, like identities coming from Defender for identities, devices report comes from Defender for endpoint, so on and so forth, right? Now, the next piece is audit and health, which might not be a direct part of Defender XDR suite, but it's also been here for a correlation and better collaboration with other products. Now the next piece is permission, and in the permission, it's basically, there is a subset of permissions we can create within the Defender portal itself. For example, if I go to Defender XDR role and try to create one role, right? Though you can create groups and all your permission management in Entra ID, but for example, you want to do very complex and a combination of certain permissions you want to provide in Defender, you can create a custom role, and I would say test role here. And once we do so, then go to next. As you can see, there are different permission groups options available where you can assign very granular permissions. So if I click on one of them, we can go to custom and then select as an analyst what are the permissions we should have. So let's say if I apply, go next, you can create an assignment and assign users to it, right? So that they have dedicated access within Defender itself. Now let me cancel it for now. And the next part is the settings. Now, as Defender portal is combination of multiple products, so you see a product specific settings. For example, if we want to onboard endpoint devices, that settings is going to be under endpoints, and the secondary left navigation comes in, and we can just go to onboarding and we see all the settings over here, right? Similar to that, if we want to do something around cloud apps, so we click on cloud apps, and once we click on cloud apps, what happens is it's going to show up the cloud app specific settings. And let's say if you want to configure app governance, you want to onboard an app, things like that, those are the things which can be defined within cloud app specific settings, as you can see here, right? Now, after settings, right, as I say, again, going back to the home page, which I mentioned at that home page is a kind of common for all the products. So it starts with incident and alert. And if we go to incidents, by default, you can see last 1 weeks of incident. And as you can see, there is one incident which is created from one of our machines onboarded here. And we can look at the incident and then start investigating the incident here itself, right? Apart from that, if we are not satisfied with the incident seeing here, we can also look at hunting and advanced hunting. And in advanced hunting, we can really kind of look at the raw logs collected by Defender itself and do an advanced hunting by either going into the table or writing our custom queries around that. The next section is action and submission. In case you have any tenant specific information you want to submit it to Microsoft to look at it, that's the place you should go. The next thing is threat intel. This is where Microsoft basically gives an overview of ongoing threats, what's going on, and what is the kind of probability and what is the public appearance of that thread, so that you are also aware of the threat going on in the threat landscape, right? Now, the next one is secure score. Secure score, as we have seen as a card in the homepage itself, right? You got a snapshot of secure score, but this page is more of not only the secure score, also the list of recommendation, which as a customer we can leverage and then have our secure score up and make our secure posture strong, right? The next thing would be learning hub, and as usual, Microsoft, as you see, Microsoft really have a good amount of resources for us to learn. So this is kind of an evolving place wherein you can get the first-hand links to all the Microsoft resources for learning. And then you do have trials. So let's say we are using Defender, and then we can also leverage certain trial to look at more products, what we want to have and things like that, right? So these are the sections are available as a part of trial. And then you can also look at partner catalog in case if you are looking for a partner to manage your ecosystem or want to have a professional services around that. So with that said, this was a very high level demo of Defender XDR. I would like to give it back to Vignesh.
Thanks, Samik. Thanks for covering the Defender XDR in detail. Uh, I'm going to share my screen again. Let me get my back. Hope you can hear me and see my screen, right? All right, so let's get moving now. So, and once again, folks, so during the demo of Samik, wherein he was showing a lot of things, right? So as we progress further in this webinar series and do a lot of sessions, our goal is to make sure that you understand each and every single option. Uh, Whatever you're currently seeing there on the admin center, those are some pre-configured things. We have already configured certain things. But when we are doing the other deep dive sessions, we would be showing you each and every single thing, how we even arrived to that place, what are the different configurations, what are some best practices, and what is the exact license that you need to have for you to even see a particular node or a particular option. Every single thing would be covered as we move further. So with that, let me keep moving. So we are almost towards the end of this webinar session. So finally, what I want to do is a comparison with other third-party products and services. Once again, as I said in the very beginning, we are not trying to sell any Microsoft product here. We just want to let you know that if at all you're trying to do a bake-off, maybe you're a decision maker in your organization, you're in one of those roles wherein you need to make sure that that is a different competitor's product and that is also a Microsoft product, and you want to make sure that you understand the different capabilities, right? So in that sense, if at all you compare Microsoft Defender for Office 365, these are all the other product which offers the same capability as Defender for Office 365. And for whatever reason, if at all you're running any of these products, you can simply get rid of it because your Microsoft Defender for Office 365 is already giving you these capabilities, right? You talk about Barracuda, you talk about Forcepoint, you talk about Mimecast. Those are some common names which I see in a lot of organizations today. But please bear in mind that all these things it's pretty much already available in your Defender for Office 365. And if at all you're running these standalone products or you have invested on any of these solutions, you can simply get rid of it because your Defender for Office 365 already is giving you these services. Now, the next thing is your Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is nothing but your EDR. And these are the other products currently, other vendors who are offering the same capability as your Defender for Endpoint. And once again, the same point in your organization, if at all you're running any of these other products, just bear in mind that your Microsoft Defender for Endpoint already has this. One common thing which I've seen is CrowdStrike. It's quite common in many of the enterprises today. So you could see CrowdStrike being heavily used. I mean, honestly, I don't have anything against CrowdStrike, but just so you know that the capabilities or whatever services which CrowdStrike can offer is already that with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And then, of course, some more EDR capabilities also, just so you know. And then the other components in your in your Active Directory, if at all you're using the Active Directory P1, P2 futures, or also your CASP, just make sure that if at all you're running any of these products that you see in the slide, please bear in mind that your Active Directory Premium P1 or your CASP already has this, so you can simply get rid of this. So these are some cost takeouts, or you can call that as a bake-off, so that you as a decision maker can always go back, understand, and then take a call on whether you want to completely become a Microsoft focused organization, or do you really want to spend money on these other products also. And finally, these are some useful links. Later, when we are sharing the slide with you, you can make use of these useful links. And with that, thanks a lot, folks. That this, as I said, this is the very first session, and we do have planned a lot as we move further. We intentionally wanted to keep it as simple as possible. We wanted to make it sure that it's really grounded. We didn't really want to talk on any deep dive topics, but as we move further, we'll be talking in detail about each and every single thing. So thanks a lot. And if at all you're wondering about what the next session is going to be, so we'll be talking about demystifying Microsoft Defender XDR license. Of course, it's the need of the hour. If at all you're working on the Microsoft security side of things, you would know how complex it is to even understand this. For the life of me, I haven't met one single individual who understands Microsoft licensing very, very well, right? I mean, that's how complicated it is. So the next session we'll be trying to talk about Microsoft demystifying Microsoft Defender XDR licensing, which is planned on Feb 24th at 6 p.m. IST. With that, we'll open up for questions now. If at all you have any questions, you can put it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask your questions, feel free to do that also. And we'd also be happy if you could just scan this QR code and take the survey. Just a couple of questions. We want to make sure that you give us a proper feedback. And also, if at all you have any question from the session that you just attended, from this session that was just going on, you can also ask those questions so that we would, we'll get back to you with the answers. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.
Hi, Vignesh. Great session. Thank you. Are there any recommendations on the Mac products as well? We see that there is a footprint for Mac products as well, about 10-20% per organization. So are there any general recommendations on endpoint security? Most of the software which may potentially replace Defender may be applicable for Windows, but even for Mac, you think we should have a similar